1980 KCIM Sports presents KCIM Sports Rewind. A look back at the week in high school sports, brought to you by St. Anthony Rehab Services. Here's Sports Director Jeff Blankman, John Ryan, and Jeff Honnold.
Another week, another half hour to kill. Here we go. Are we set and ready
We're
for
off
this
to
now?
the races?
Yeah, we're off. Start talking sports already. I do like today's setup because I cannot see Jeff Honnold at all. So if anybody's watching on stream right now, I can't see him at all. It's like a perfect
I know why
day.
you sit over here now. This
And
is like really nice.
And I'm like totally thrown off today. I'm like off balance. I don't know what to do.
I can't broadcast left-handed.
I know.
What do you mean?
Yes.
By the way, Jason and Chelsea are back from Denver, Colorado. They seem to have brought the snow with them. So
They did. Yeah, thanks, guys.
for that, guys.
Yeah.
Loving
Could have
it.
kept that out there.
I just got a text message from Chris Parkus from Coon Rapids, and he's in Denver right now. They didn't bring all the snow with them. 'Cause it's pretty ugly.
Yeah, they're getting about 6 more inches out there today of snowfall.
I hope he does not bring that with him.
Thanks for bringing the early winter. They got good specials going on, so they're
Well,
they're
she's got her
forgiven
winter
for that.
garb on. So.
Yeah.
She did like 2 weeks ago.
I know. Gets below 50 and she's got the winter parka on in here. We got to talk about a couple of news. What did you do?
He kicked the computer down.
There's a computer down over on this side. My knee just got
That's
dented.
why I always sit over
All
there.
right, I'll turn this way.
All right. Happened to run into Casey Kasperbauer
Yes.
the other day. I was up for Parents Weekend at University of South Dakota. He's the men's basketball director of operations for USD. Boy, I tell you what, they are excited about their season upcoming. Going to start out, first of all, they got 3 games in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great way to start off a
Tough
season.
gig.
But they are preseason number 2 in the Summit League, and they have the preseason player of the year in Stanley Amude. So those guys are just loving life right now.
Absolutely, and I think you are too. Being a grad from up there, you were almost giving me like the entire half-hour preview of them yesterday.
Casey's going to hook me up with some tickets later on. He promised on me that. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Should be fun. That's a great place to watch a game, too.
Doing well. Brand new arena up there, of course. So, Casey, he's like trying to get in the basketball area. And I tell you what, that's a stepping stone right there to a lot of bigger things.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's going to have – he works so hard. He's such a smart kid. I shouldn't say kid anymore. He's a young man, but such a smart guy, and he's going to have a great career in whatever direction this ends up taking him.
Yep, so he's got a fun season ahead of him, but we got to talk about the current season going on. Cross country, I bet they are loving it, the fact that they're done now, not having to run this weekend.
Yeah, they got to run this weekend. Yeah,
so state
is this weekend. Our state qualifiers were last Thursday. It turned out to be a pretty good day. And we ended up having 5 kids qualify, 2 from Kemper, Tyler Putney and Michael Potabom, both advanced from the state qualifying meet down in Atlantic, both of them running pretty good times. Putney ended up with a 17:25. I know he wanted to get into the 16s, just didn't quite get in there, but he'll advance on. Also advancing from IK Manning was Quentin Dreyer. Here's a young guy that really felt like he should have gotten there last year. Ended up not making it last year, but goes for the first time ever this year. So congratulations to him. And then we had 2 girls from the Audubon Wheelers, both Grace Slater and Hannah Tigas, both qualifying as well. So going to be a nice busy day on Saturday up at it's at the golf course. I can't remember the name of it, but it's the one that's north of Harlan Rogers Park, about a mile or a mile and a half north of Harlan Rogers Park, where they hold the state softball tournament. I'll be up there getting some video interviews with all the kids when they're done running. But Putney and Potabom will run at 12:30 in the 3A boys. And then it'll be Grace Slater and Hannah Tigas at 2 o'clock in the 1A girls. And then at 2:30, Quentin Dreyer from IK Manning in the 1A boys. So we wish all of those guys luck. And I haven't looked at the weather forecast, but you kind of made it sound like it's not going to be fun up there on Saturday.
Sunshine, lower 40s for the highs that day. That's not meaning when they run.
Right. What's
that was my question. It was like you look at these state cross country meet. You could get any kind of weather at all. You could have 70s that day, and you could have temperatures in the 20s. Literally.
Last year was really nice. Was up there with just a kind of dressed like I am today, kind of a light long sleeve shirt and a short sleeve shirt, and was very comfortable.
I thought you were going to say poorly.
Yeah, no. Yeah. That's every day, though. Come on.
I couldn't resist that one.
Well, nobody's dressed worse than Honnold today. So
I'm working for a living now.
Yeah.
Talk about what it's like when it's cold out for those
it's
guys.
Miserable. I don't know if the runners, it bothers them as much because, I have running some of my own. Once you get out there and you get your body kind of warmed up, you're okay. I think if it's windy, that probably, especially if it's windy and cold, that affects you more. But for us media people and for the four families and everybody that's up there watching it, I was up there a couple of years ago, and you were in coveralls and you were still miserable. And I'm hoping it's not that way this year. It's that place can get really, really windy in areas if you kind of find a tree to block the wind if it's a windy day.
I tell you what, yeah, that's just something that I can't imagine when it's really cold outside, how it is to try to stay warm, doing that, even while you're running the race.
Right. The toughest part probably, I think, would be at the beginning of the race, because you can't have all of your warm-up stuff on, so you got to take that off. You stand around, you're trying to run out and get your starts practiced, but, you're in the elements. Once you get maybe a mile into the race, your body's going enough and you're warmed up enough. I went out and ran on, last spring went out and ran on some, mid-20s and low 20-degree days with some northwest winds, and it took me about 3/4 of a mile to get where I was pretty comfortable body-wise.
With that new compression stuff, though, that really helps keep that body heat in. So
it does.
If they wear that and, with gloves, I think you're in pretty good shape. But now, your face might get cold unless they want to wear a mask. But
right.
That compression stuff really does work well.
It does, but like I said, if you're standing out there in 30-mile-an-hour northwest winds and it's 25 degrees outside, it's going to be chilly before you get started. So
that is coming up this Saturday, so we wish all the local runners the best of luck there. So once again, we're going to talk football playoffs. 5 teams around the area wrapping up their season. And
he got it in.
He didn't see me.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the teams that aren't in and the teams that are in coming up next. You're listening to KCIM Sports Rewind.
As the athletes at
slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. You need to slow down, you need to slow.
Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
This is KCIM Sports Rewind. It's John Ryan, Sports Director Jeff Blankman, and Jeff Honnold with you here this morning. Going to talk a little football, but you know what? First, we're going to talk about the great folks, the great team they have at Carroll Lumber, locations in Wall Lake, Lakeview, and Odebolt. You want the best in windows? Talk to the experts at Carroll Lumber. They've got them all. Marvin, Sierra Pacific, Anderson brand windows. Nobody likes a draft.
No, there's
No,
nothing
not
worse
today.
in the wintertime, John, than sitting there and you're watching like your curtain move or you feel the breeze coming through the windows. That you just know you're going to be miserable then.
Anybody who's lived in Iowa, knows that feeling. So nothing will allow the warm air to escape faster than poor windows. So
I wonder if
talk
they
to
got
them.
good ones for my deer stand.
I bet they would. I bet you could probably
it gets
build.
drafty out
You could
there
build
some
a
days.
Cadillac of deer stands.
I might.
With the
I'm
help
getting
of
old
Carroll
enough, I
Lumber.
might do it.
He can't build
and
anything,
talk to
but
him.
somebody else might be able to.
So get them ready for wintertime. Now is the time. We got a little reminder of what's yet to come with the snow on the ground. So get those windows replaced and save your energy this year with the help of Carroll Lumber. Again, they've got locations in Wall Lake, Lakeview, and Odebolt. Lots of selection on great brand name windows.
I have to go talk to him.
Let's talk football here. We got a couple teams that did not make the playoffs, but ended on some very strong notes here. Namely, East Sac County finally got healthy, and they rolled out to a big win in Week 9.
Yeah, and won 3 of their last 4. It was nice to see once they got healthy how good they were. We talked about it all season long. If they'd have been healthy from the beginning, I think winning the district still would have been tough. Trainer and Underwood are good ball clubs, but they played with both of them, especially Trainer, who ended up being the district champion all the way through that game until late in the fourth quarter. I think they might be your district champions if they would have been healthy at the beginning of the year all the way through.
Oh, I think they'd be there. I mean, whether they'd win it or not, they would have definitely
been in the hunt.
been a great game and
That'd have been a huge factor in the race
Yes.
anyway.
Yeah, I mean
Absolutely.
that very first game. I mean, the body started falling and they just couldn't recover from that.
That's worst case scenario. First game out, you'd suffer a bunch of injuries at key positions, and boy, you just feel like you're fighting uphill all the way the rest of the season. So, also Glidden Ralston, by the way, they finish up strong on their season.
Yeah, cruised on Friday night. Kind of a nice third quarter. The difference got a 4th win to knock off West Harrison that night. They're one of those teams that just kind of snake bitten a little bit this year. Was it? They had some injuries before the season started, but just some, mistakes at bad times seem to cost them in a lot of the games this year. But, we tip our cap. Craig Lynch stepping away after this season. Great guy, always fun to talk to. We're going to get him on here probably next week or the week after. We'll talk to him about his tremendous career. But, what a great guy, great coach. It's going to be really different not seeing him on the sidelines. John, I don't know if you've ever covered Glidden with anybody else as the head coach. I haven't either in my 16 years here. So it's going to be different not seeing Craig Lynch on the sidelines for Glidden.
I remember he was at Carroll High and then moved over to Glidden. So I think that was when I started kind of covering sports. But yeah, it's always been Craig Lynch at Glidden Ralston. So that's going to be a real changing of the guard. But Cole Corson, a guy we've known, we watched him play high school ball. We watched him come up through the coaching ranks. Great young coach.
Yep.
He's going to do a lot of good things with that program.
He is, and he'll be a fun guy to pick on because we do that a lot. So, yeah.
Well, he's an easy target.
Kemper rolling out to a big win as well. That was kind of expected. Kemper kind of taking out some frustrations there.
And good to see them finally get that kind of a game. They've had so many struggles this year that, I think everybody anticipated. You even talk with Chad Klein. They wanted a better season than what they had. I still look back and I say, the only loss, though, that I look at that I go, that was a game that you really felt like they probably should have won was probably the Atlantic game.
Yes.
Otherwise, they lost to good football teams. It's not like they went out there and lost a bad football team. So, you can be disappointed probably with the overall record, but at the same time, you look at the losses minus that Atlantic one, and you're like, yeah, I can understand that.
I think, though, the losses you look at, they didn't feel like they were competitive enough in those losses. You understand a loss, but this team, I looked at the pictures today. We posted them out there. They have some big kids. It's just there's something that didn't click with this team, and sometimes you have that. But glad to see they got a big win there.
Yeah, 9 different guys caught passes, 5 different guys caught touchdown passes the other night. So a great way for them to be able to close out their season.
Arweva, they really wanted to win to close out their season, but turnovers kind of doing the Rockets in.
Yeah, turnovers, some missed tackles, just not able to kind of stop some big plays in the second half. Down 24-20 at the halftime. Came out in the third quarter, got a big stop right away, and then turned it over and gave up a touchdown. And, even when they got the lead in the first half, up 16-14, River Valley scores on the very first play of the next drive. So, the screen pass really hurt them. Turnovers really hurt them. But young team losing just the one senior. So, I look for big things from this program in the near future.
Yeah, that's been kind of cyclical for them about every 4 years. It's going to be all freshmen, it seems like, for the Arweva Rockets. So they're going through that phase once again. Big team that had the biggest, probably disappointing loss for the players and everybody is Carroll High.
Yeah.
They went in knowing if they won, they were playoff bound. You lose the game, you're sitting out. And unfortunately, it was DCG at home coming up with that 14-7 win over the Tigers.
And I think Carroll kind of felt like they gave that one away. A fluke thing where, the ball comes down and hits one of the gunners on a punt return. It just grazes the foot enough to be able to be touched, and Dallas Center Grimes comes up with it. An interception that's returned down inside their 10-yard line when Carroll was driving down to score and deep in DCG territory. So 2 touchdown drives given up. The longest one was 35 yards. So they held DCG to about 130 yards of total offense or so. So great defensive effort. Just a few too many mistakes ended up costing them kind of that game.
Yeah, you wanted it to come down to week 9. If you're fighting for the playoff of the district, you want that. That's the perfect ending of the season is to take mano a mano. I mean, the winner is going to move on to the playoffs.
Yeah, and you know what? Great job for them after starting 1-3 to get refocused, go up and beat a good Webster City ball club that finished up 6-3 and kind of dominate that game and kind of get everything going. And I tip my cap to the players and to the coaches. I just posted here this morning a postseason recap interview with Danny McCartan, and we talked about the fact that, after the first 4 games, they're struggling offensively. They completely revamped their offense. They did away with the 2-back set. They went back and kind of redid the running game and refocused on the running game. The players adjusted to it well. The coaches were, wise enough to go, what, this isn't working. We've got to go back to what works, and they went to what works, and it worked for them the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm. So those are the teams that did not qualify for the playoffs. Let's quickly talk about the teams that did. Let's begin with the Audubon Wheelers. They had picked up a big win in Week 9, and they go in as, I believe, the number 1 RPI seed.
They
right?
do. Yep, absolutely. And Jeff, I know you were down there for that game the other night. This is a really good football team. They've got athletes, and they put them all over the field.
You know, it's a really good defensive team. It's hard to say that about Sean Burke's team, but defensively, they fly to the ball. They're gang tackling. They do a great job, and they do have athletes, and they can put athletes in space. They really can force a lot with that running game, that option read, and they can also pass it. So they're going to be a tough out. They're really solid. They're playing well. They're really confident, and I look for them to make a couple wins here.
Absolutely. They could get a rematch with this Caminita team in that second round. Cam goes on the road to Lamoni. Audubon will host Harris Lake Park, which is not going to be easy. I know, talking with Coach Chris Peterson, when they played them earlier this year, he really likes this Harris Lake Park team. Young team, athletic team. These two teams had to play a couple of years ago up at Harris Lake, and Harris Lake Park was able to get the win. So Audubon hoping to get a little revenge coming up on Friday night.
Why do I see an Audubon-Coon Rapids-Baird matchup somewhere along the line of the playoffs?
It could happen. They're on the same side of the bracket. Coon's got a tough one. They're going down to Fremont Mills, who always has a good football team. They've only played 7 games this season because had a couple of district teams that dropped to football this year, and nobody seemed to want to pick up Fremont Mills. So nobody wanted to give them those extra games and pick up a 10th game to be able to play them. So they only played 7. But this is definitely a winnable game. Coon really, really good defensively. They create a ton of turnovers. I think they've got about 20 turnovers, close to that, created this year. A lot of interceptions, fumbles. You're going to have to stop the run game, though, because Fremont Mills is not going to come out and throw the ball. It's going to be two teams that are going to line up at each other and go, I'm going to run right at you, tackle me if you can.
Well, and I think that works out well for Coon. I mean, they're just one of those teams that likes to man up against you. And anytime you get in the playoffs now and you have a really good defense, you always have a shot. And Coon has a really good defense as well as Audubon. That was a great game down there where they both really struggled to score. I look for them to really make some noise here.
Yeah, second round, though, for Coon, if they win, could be that Remsen St. Mary's team that has been ranked pretty much number 2 kind of all season long. They ended up 4 in the RPI, but they've been ranked number 2 by most of the polls all season long.
So if they meet up, it's going to be in the Dome semifinals.
Yep, absolutely. That's where they would end up playing. So, and if we're going to get a rematch, that'd be the great place to have it.
How would you like that? 2 teams that close together have to go to the Dome to play in the semifinals. That would be a terrific matchup.
I think both of them would be really happy for that case. And for us, to be honest with you, I hate to put it this way, we'd be guaranteed at least one of the area teams in the finals.
Yeah, that'd be all right.
Always looking down the road.
Yep.
South Central Calhoun, they wrap up their season against Pocahontas area with a solid win.
Yeah, really dominating in that district like we anticipated they would do. They get a host Mount Ayr, so good for them this year that they didn't end up having to go northwest. They sent, like we thought maybe they could, Underwood and Trainer up that way, but did get put in the bracket with the number 1 overall team in Van Meter. Van Meter's top running back had a meniscus surgery this week, so we don't know for sure if he's going to be out and how that'll impact him. But I was talking with Kurt Batta, the defensive coordinator from South Central Calhoun last night. Mount Airy, he said, reminds him a lot of Northwestern. They throw a lot of short passes. They really try to get the ball to the edges on the run game, and he says they are fast. I said, you guys are fast, though, too. You guys are a track program as well. And he goes, yeah, we'll match up speed-wise in our secondary, but he goes, this is a fast team, and he goes, they will challenge you. You look at their Van Meter score, and it was 28-0 the final score, and when you just look at it, you go, yeah, Van Meter probably handled the game. It really was. And it was 7-0 into the fourth quarter. And Mount Ayr drove down inside the 5 on the opening drive, had a chance to go up, got stuffed. Van Meter then went on a 99-yard drive to put that 7 points. So that was the only 7 they got into the fourth quarter. So in talking with Coach Batta, this is a good Mount Ayr team that they'll see in the opening round.
What I like about South Central, though, they're a bend and no break defense.
Yep.
So they'll let you have that 5 and 6 yard dink and dunk. Can you do that all the way down the field without making a mistake? And they also gang tackle really well.
Yep.
So, and they're good at punching at the ball and trying to get a turnover on that. So,
they'll be prepared.
Yeah, anytime you have that kind of speed, you're in good shape.
It's fun to watch those teams that rely on just that pace, that fast pace, play each other with the speed that they can bring to it. To me, if it's all equal, I mean, that's advantage offense, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree there because they know where they're going and what they want to do. But I think South Central's so good defensively that I think they'll be able to contain them.
And South Central can play that that pass game if they want, but they can also take it right up the gut. And
Right.
and I would look for them to maybe make that adjustment and really pound away at them.
And that's kind of what they're going to do if according to Coach Bada, if you look at maybe where Mount Ara struggled, they're not very big. They're just really fast. So teams that have given them problems have been teams that line it up and run it straight at them. So look for that full house tee for South Central Calhoun.
That way you use your offense to kind of pound away and keep that offense out, keep their offense off the field. So that could be a big part of the game plan for the Titans. IKM Manning goes in a district champion as well, but they're going to be on the road to open the playoffs.
Yeah, there was 10 districts in Class A this year. So the disappointing thing for them is they're the 13th seed in the RPI, and this is the thing that I'm not going to pound on the association, but I know coaches around the state are frustrated with it. Here you're the 13 seed, you're a district champion, and somehow you got to go on the road to the number 1 overall seed in the opening round, and it just doesn't quite make sense. I know that it's probably a travel thing or something like that, but when I talk to coaches, a lot of them are like, if you're going to use the RPI as the be-all, end-all to who's going to be in and this kind of stuff, then use it. 1 verse 16, 2, 15, and on down the line. Now, if you got Northwest Iowa against Southeast Iowa, 1 against 16, maybe you adjust a little bit there, but you've got an 11-14 matchup in the first round. How can that be, especially when the 11's going to the 14? You got a 13 having to travel the number 1, seed, that's a district champion. Both are district champions. It just seems a little bit odd.
Well, and it still feels like they're doing that East against West thing. I mean, you look at that South Central, you look at all of them. They really loaded it up, and they told us they weren't going to, but again, it looks like East against West.
And that's the tough part. And I agree with the coaches. If you're going to have the RPI system, if you're going to base how you seed the teams off of that, then use it completely.
I want to see the best 4 teams at the Dome. I want the best teams there.
And that's what they kind of intend with the RPI, but it's
and they've done that in the fact that they're keeping 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the different pods so that they can get there. The problem is the matchups with inside of those pods. Like last year, for example, when you had South Central Calhoun going up Northwest, I think it was number 1, number 3, number 5, and number 7. Were the 4 teams in that pod. How do you get the best teams to the Dome when you got 1, 3, and 5 and 7 all in the same pod?
Yeah, the only thing realistic is to use neutral sites for those longer travel games. And is it fair to have a neutral site for a number 1 seed and have a home game for a number 5 seed, say, for example?
Yeah, so, and they used to do it. Before I came here, I was down in Osceola, and I remember Osceola hosted Clarinda against Prairie City Monroe in a quarterfinal round matchup. So they used to do it. Why they don't anymore, I don't know. Probably because it affects gate.
Yeah, and getting teams getting schools that really want to host, because they're going to have to staff it and do all of that stuff for very little money.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
The state's going to take the gate, and you're going to get very little left over. So that kind of wraps up football. It's going to be an interesting first round. We've got 3 games on the air and another one that's going to be on Facebook Live. Talk about that.
Yeah, what we're going to do is with 4 teams left, we only had the 3 stations, had to figure out a way. We've done Facebook Live. We did it for the baseball playoffs a couple of years ago.
And we've asked Kim to buy into the station, but she's so
I don't
adamant that we don't do that.
Yeah, Jefferson Dennison were both for sale at one point or another.
That's a whole other topic.
Yes, no, I know. I'm just kidding. But anyways, so what we're going to do is here on KCIM, we'll have Coon Rapids Bayard at Fremont Tabor Mills. At Fremont Mills, we'll have South Central Calhoun's home game with Mount Ara on Kick 106.7. IKM Manning up at West Hancock will be on 93.7 KKRL. Audubon will end up being the team that's going to be on KKRL's Facebook Live. So if you haven't liked KKRL's Facebook page yet, you want to go ahead and do that. It'll be an audio broadcast. Jeff's going to do it for us. He's got experience doing that stuff with the merchants.
We'll use the Sling Studio from Johnson Communications.
So we thank these guys for that.
Little round of applause for him.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Nick Brinks is working on graphics right now. We should have a scoreboard on there if all
it's
things
like
work
we're
right.
professionals.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I'm putting the should in there. There's a lot of shoulds. We're dealing with technology. There's a good chance we train wreck it. But.
And just so people, because I know some people are going to be, well, why did that game get the one to be on Facebook Live? Well, you need good internet. Audubon's got really good Wi-Fi right there in their press box. They allow us to use it.
It's right there.
So it's the only place that we would have known for sure that we
Yeah.
could have good enough internet to be able to do an internet-only broadcast. So none of the other locations offered that. So that's the
Even
reason
with the
why it ought to
hotspot,
been. Yeah,
you don't know with Verizon where you're going to actually have really good internet.
Yep.
We struggle with it sometimes even at South Central. So
Yep. So that was the best place to be able to do it, where we had what we knew was going to be good Wi-Fi.
And we're going to try to run it just like a normal game. We're going to do the pregame. We'll try to stay on for postgame with Sean and everything else, but we'll do as good as we can.
Yep.
It's Mark and myself, so it'll be a train wreck, but
Yeah.
it should be a fun train wreck.
And New Way Ford Scoreboard Show will follow the games on Kick and KCIM this Friday.
All right, sounds good. We got to talk a little volleyball playoffs next.
As the athletes at your house. Professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
1380 AM, 95.1 FM, KCIM at Sports Rewind. Sports Director Jeff Blankman, Jeff Arnold, John Ryan along with you. Volleyball, say it.
Playoffs!
There you go.
Playoffs!
He enjoys that way too much.
And he's kind of sounds a little bit like you.
No, not at all.
Want to try it again?
Sound like
I can do it again.
No, I'm good. Where do we
Wait a
wanna
minute, you haven't made any comments about my outfit yet today.
You're right, I have not.
I've been truck
continue
driving,
on.
so I'm trying to look the part of truck driver.
Let's talk about the playoffs. Where do you want to begin?
Let's start off last Tuesday real quick so we can kind of get some of the teams that saw their season come to an end last week. Audubon fell to Glidden Ralston. Tough year for the Wheelers, just 5 wins overall. Terrific senior group, but had some young kids from that, to go with that. Had some injuries throughout the season that really impacted them, but a good win for Glidden Ralston, and we'll talk more about them coming up here with their match last night. Peyton Sheridan also saw their season come to an end last week, as well as they fell to Coon Rapids Bayard, but really challenged them, losing 25-19, 26-24, 24-26, then 25-22. So they were in all of those sets. Danielle Hoyle had another great year. Chloe Burns had a nice year as well as their setter. So this is still a young team. They're bringing everybody back next year, so that'll be a team to be able to reckon with a little bit next year. And then Arweva, another young team, just a couple of seniors on that team, Leslie Luft and Michaela Hinders. Leslie will be missed in that backside as their libero. But Arweva fell to Boyer Valley 3-2. They got up 2-0, or 2-1, excuse me. You really felt like they were going to do it, but struggled in sets 4 and 5. But their junior class, their freshman class, really, really talented. I look for them to be really a very good volleyball team coming up next year.
I believe last week also Kemper Green County. Was that the
You bet. Kemper rolled over Greene County last Wednesday, so they moved into their matchup tonight where they'll host OABCIG, who got by Heelan last week as well. So then we move into last night's matchups. I'll start with mine last night. South Central Calhoun, their serve gave IKM Manning a lot of trouble. The Wolves were just kind of out of system. I think there was one set, I think it was set number 1, where they had 8 aces in that set. IKM Manning would make some minor runs every now and then, but never more than about 2 or 3 points. Just once South Central built their lead, IK Manning just didn't have answers for them. Riley Bada and Emma McKinney are just 2 dominant volleyball players, and they ended up advancing on. They'll head up to play Clarion Goldfield. Dow's up in Clarion Goldfield coming up on Thursday night. For IKM Manning, a tough season. They're so used to having a lot of size down there, didn't have a tremendous amount of size, which kind of threw off some of the things they wanted to do. So it is kind of a reloading year for the Wolves this year.
How about last night, Jeff? You were also out at Coon Rapids Bayard, Glidden Ralston, Coon Rapids Bayard.
Yeah, really great game there. Glidden came out game 1, really kind of controlled it. It was close in score, but you could see Glidden Ralston really confident, able to do what they wanted to do. Got into game 2, got up big. For some reason I have 11-2 in my head, but it was a pretty good lead for Glidden Ralston. Chloe Parkus went back to serve for Coon Rapids Bayard after the timeout and really got him on a roll, and CRB started passing pretty well, and Glidden Ralston just kind of lost their ability to pass. Even on free balls, they weren't able to get that ball up to the setter the way they want to and run their offense, and got our cord disconnected at 27-27, so got back on there. It was 29-27 CRB in the second game, and then from that point on, CRB just had the confidence and the drive to go able to run, and they got Culbertson going there in the middle, and then Betts was able to get one-on-ones on the outside, and just Glidden Ralston not able to handle it. Whitford had quite a few kills from the outside. Talia Schoen had a lot of kills in the middle, but they just couldn't quite get Gretchen Wallace going, and they just weren't able to pass the way they passed all year long. And maybe credit Kuhn for that. They kept them out of system quite a bit, but really good game, great game to call. Wish it would have been later in the year, not second round. I think both of these teams are good enough to be split apart in different districts, but fun game. Congratulations to Kuhn. Glidden Ralston had a great year with conference win and tournament win, but just not able to get going here.
Yeah, disappointing, I think, for Glidden Ralston to end the way it did for them, having to beat a team 3 times in a season and twice, in a week at their place. I think that's probably the thing that frustrates Glidden the most is they were the ranked team, they were the higher seeded team, and they had to travel on the road to play a very good team.
Well, the crowd that was there, I don't know if it would have fit in the Glidden gym. There was a big crowd there. You had Arweva girls were there, Peyton girls were there. It was a tight gym at Coon Rapids.
Yeah, and last night I was up in Lake City for the alphabet battle. ESC taking on MVAOCOU.
Yes.
Which, by the way, is a mouthful when you're trying to call
Yes,
volleyball.
it is.
So
Yes.
it was the Rams and the Raiders going on, but no flow in the game last night at all. The Rams came in winless on the season, and the Raiders, of course, 26-6, Twin Lakes Conference champions. There was no flow. No team got on a run at all. Maybe 4 or 5 points was the most that the Raiders had all night long. The junior class, they said, we like a little more tempo to play with, and it just didn't happen last night. So they're going to need to be ready second round.
Yeah, absolutely.
The competition is going to step up quite a bit. But that junior class, I talked to Bree Beckman afterwards, said, it takes experience to do well in the playoffs, and they're what they call kind of a veteran team. That junior class has played a lot.
They've been playing since they were freshmen.
Yeah, exactly. So they've got a lot of experience. So this is a team that could do a lot of damage in the playoffs.
Absolutely. I like their chances to make a really deep run this year. I really do. And stuff. Toughest thing last night, and Jeff, you know it as well, when you're playing a team that's not real good sometimes and you're used to playing better competition, sometimes the slot ball and the free ball, it just gets you out of a rhythm. And sometimes you almost play not to their level, but almost to their level because you're so out of what you're used to and what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, even in teams like that, they don't even give you a good free ball. It's just kind of over the net where, a lot of teams will put it in a certain spot and you're ready for it and you can get that up and you can run your fast tempo and really hammer it down. Bad teams just make you look bad. It's hard, especially if the referees are letting them get away with a lot of non-contact drills or the double hits, double contacts, and all that kind of stuff. If they're not calling it tight, that even makes it worse. But boy, if they call it tight, then there's that's all you're doing is blowing your whistle. So tough game.
I will say this about the Rams. There was no quit in them last night. They played to the very last point of the night. So, they should have a lot to be proud of in that playoff performance last night.
Absolutely. And they're always, that's a program over there as far as athletics that's always had success. Maple Valley Anthony and Charter Oak Ute did too, and they were separate. So, 2 programs that I'm sure will be back someday.
Yeah, they've got some athletes a lot. There should be hopefully building something again next year. So, that is a look at what was going on. KCIM Sports Rewind. Look for the football playoffs coming up Friday night. More volleyball playoffs tonight and I believe Thursday night. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Right, 2 matches tonight, 3 guaranteed on Thursday.
Check the schedule at 1380kcim.com. And thanks once again to Johnston Communications to helping us live stream today.
When you need to know.